Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back. Today what we're going to be doing is we're going to take some flame maple veneer and we're going to accent the grain on it so that we can go over it with a dye or a transparent lacquer or something like that. A tinted lacquer, and get a really cool finish like you would see on a Les Paul or perhaps a PRS guitar or something like that. So what we're going to be using, I have here a Solar Lux NGR dye stain from Behlen. They sent this to me. It's a great product. I've used it before. I did a demo on it. I'm going to use that to accent the open grain on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of dye the whole thing and then sand off the excess, and what remains in the open grain is what's going to accent it. That's how you basically do this for figured wood. And what I've got here is a guitar body from guitarfetish.com. It's got a paper thin maple veneer on it. So let's talk about the good and the bad here real quick before we get started. This product I've tried before, the stain, or the dye stain, and it's a good product. It dries very quickly, it penetrates deep, and it works quite well. Unfortunately, this guitar body is terrible. It's junk. I wouldn't buy one again if anybody's out there looking. You may have noticed that I had a guitar body like this that I used in a kit build, and that I have another one here, and you're probably thinking, did you buy two of them? Why would you do that? Well, I didn't. I mentioned to Guitar Fetish how absurdly poor quality one of them was, and they sent me another one that was basically the same. So I can actually see areas, not even on the edges, but like right within here where it's almost sanded through. I don't know if that's going to make it impossible for this technique to be demonstrated properly, but this is the only piece of flame maple that I have on hand, so this is what we're going to use. The process is quite simple. Like I said, I'm going to apply the stain. So what I've done is I've shaken this up reasonably well. For God's sake, wear gloves. If you stain your hands with this, you're going to have a very hard time getting it off of there. Wear gloves when you do this. It's also probably not very good for you. A mask would also be a good idea. It's alcohol based. It does smell pretty potent, but it's very easy to apply. It's very quick to apply. You simply put a little bit on your rag and wipe it on. It also goes a long way. I've barely put any on there. It's a fairly open grain wood, and I've already done a fair bit of the guitar. I'd bring you in closer, but there's really, honestly, as far as technique goes, like knowing the process is important, but for the technique itself, there's not a lot to it. I'm gonna go in circles here a little bit, mostly across the grain though. A little bit width, it really doesn't matter as long as you're making sure that you actually get it in there. And I'm trying to apply a fairly light layer of this. There are a couple reasons for that. The main one, the typical one, is I don't want to have to sand too hard to get it off of there. If you've got a nice thick piece of maple, you may want to consider applying a thicker layer, or a stronger coat, if you will, of the dye so that it accents more heavily. I have a very, very thin piece of maple here that's actually, it's basically a piece of paper. So I'm a little worried that when I go to sand it back, I'm going to sand right through it. That would not be ideal. You may see that happen. Hopefully that's not the case. Because of how thin it is, obviously the veneer was glued on. They always are. The glue has kind of permeated it, if you will. So the glue's soaked up into the veneer, and the veneer, for that reason, doesn't take dye as well as a decent veneer or a thicker piece of flame maple would. I did a similar technique to this on the other guitar body, and I used a color tone dye, and I could barely get it to absorb at all. It pretty much didn't do anything. And I said, well, it's because the glue is in the wood, which it is. But somehow, and I feared that would happen again, but that doesn't appear to be the case. So you can see there are some areas where it seemed to have a little bit more difficulty taking the dye, but all in all, this dye has actually gone in here quite well. It remains to be seen how it will sand out, but I'm pleasantly surprised by this. And I think it's safe to say that it's not because the wood's any better. That dye is just really good. It's not mixed with water like the aniline dye I was using was. It may have changed the behavior of the dye I used last time if I had mixed it with alcohol. But I'm very impressed with how this worked out here. This is actually better than I expected. So you can kind of see already that it's gotten into those areas of open grain, and that flame maple pattern is coming out. All right. Now what I'm going to do, this is already dry, so I'm going to grab some sandpaper right now. I'm going to start by doing it by hand because I'm worried I don't want to sand through this. And I'm just going to sand over this entire surface and try and pull off the dye that's sitting on the surface of the closed grain so that we get the accenting from the stuff that's in the open grain. So let's see how that goes right now. So I've got some 400 grit paper here, again, because I'm trying to be careful. I'm going to sand with the grain to begin with here. I just want to say again, I'm really impressed that this dye went in here the way it did on this wood. So we'll see how it comes out now. Well, this veneer is not very good, is it? That's not surprising. Okay, let's take a quick look at what I've managed to achieve with 20 seconds of sanding by hand with 400 grit. So you're kind of seeing that accenting that we were looking for. Let's keep going. So guys, that's just a couple minutes of hand sanding, not even a couple minutes. It's working pretty well so far. Haven't really gone through the veneer anywhere, which is nice. And that dye is staying in where it's supposed to. It penetrated pretty deep, so I'm having, I wouldn't say difficulty getting it out of some of these areas, but it takes a little bit of effort, what you would expect. I'm gonna keep sanding. I'm not gonna film it because I'm just sanding. But I'm just focused on those areas that are darker now. I'm trying to get that extra dye out of there. And I'll show you how it looks when it's done. Well guys, here it is. All in all, that went fairly well. Sanded it back pretty far, and you can see, you can sand back less far if you wanted darker overall. But we've succeeded in accenting that grain. So now it'll be time, as far as the finishing process goes, to apply either a dye or a transparent tinted lacquer or something like that over here, and that'll accent this. I think what I'm gonna do, for the purpose of confirming that this dye stain performs well with other stuff, what I'm gonna do is apply a water-based rub-on stain over it. Well, a dye stain again. So I'll apply a dye over this. This is just a tutorial on how to accent the grain on the flame maple. So on the next one, I'll show how to create the color. So stay tuned for that video if you want to see how this plays, if you will, with that water-based color. And let me know if you have any questions. As always, thanks for watching. And keep in mind that on a proper, piece of flame maple, a thicker top, or a better veneer, this would have done much better, okay? So yeah, as always, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time.